I've changed brakes before on other cars, but I have to say this is way easier.
I'll be working on a 2007 Sienna, but the brakes in this video and the techniques are either exact or very similar to every model of the Sienna from 2004 to 2010. A mechanic can change brake pads in a half an hour to an hour, so allow 2 to 3 hours if you've never done this before, and links in the description below for all the parts that I use in this video.
Now I'm going to show you how to do this without using clamps. There's a step where a lot of people use a clamp. You don't need to. So the first thing I do is open the hood. You want to make sure that when you do this, you remember to put this back on. You do not want this cap left off. This is the brake fluid cap. So we'll put that right there. We'll leave the hood open as a reminder to put that cap back on. If you don't put it on, you can very easily have an accident, because when you step on the brakes, this helps add pressure to the brake line, and if it's not there, you're not going to be stopping. So let's go over here. Now you want to turn the tire outward. The brake pads are in the front part of the wheel, and so you want to turn the tire outward so you can have easier access to the bolts. There's only 2 bolts you need to take off for the brake pad part. We have to take the tire off. There's a jack in the back of your car. I'll go ahead and open the garage and show you. Okay, so this is the, sorry it's so dark, it's night, and I don't have a light over here. So anyway, just behind this panel, this is the passenger side in the back, there is a jack, which is this right here. If you've seen my other videos, I've have jacks, but I sold that car and I bought this Toyota, and it didn't go high enough. So it's got a jack and this bar here all in that compartment. It's a little tricky to get it out. I had to use this bar to pry the jack out. And anyway, let's go back over. Okay, so one of the things that you will want to do is put some rubber gloves on, because you don't want this brake pad stuff. I know California says everything will give you cancer, but this is one of the things that I believe is the dust coming from brake pads. So the first thing we're going to do before we jack up the tire is take off the tire cover. This tire iron is in the compartment that I just showed you as well. So we take the cover off, and then we will be just loosening these bolts. Doesn't take much to loosen them. A little bit of leverage, and you'll notice the nuts. Oh, see, they're coming off real easily. All right, let's go jack up the car. There's kind of some grooves on the underside of the car that indicate where you put the jack. All right, now I will say before you jack up your car, you want to make sure that the car is on a level surface, that the car is in park. Some people put the e-brake on and use chocks. I don't have any chocks. I'm not too worried about that. But your safety is in your own hands, not mine. Okay, so the tire is actually off the ground. I'll raise it up a little bit higher. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish raising this a little bit. It's not too hard. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we'll leave that right there. Take out the metal crank. And now the tire will just come off. And we'll finish taking off the nuts. You just want to loosen them. You don't want to take them off all the way. just loosen them while it's on the ground. If you take them off all the way, the tire might buckle and hit sideways, and then you're bending these bolts. You don't want to bend those or stress those or do any kind of anything that would ruin it. Now, here is the caliper. Here's the caliper, here's the brake pads, and let's show you how easy it is. Okay, so on the back side of the caliper, you have a bolt there and a bolt there. You gotta take those out, put them aside, and then this mechanism here, this caliper mechanism, will come right off, and then you'll be able to take the brake pads off. Then you'll also want to inspect the rotor, just in case it has grooves. If it has grooves, you could take it to AutoZone or any place, they'll resurface them. You don't want deep grooves in there. That's bad news. All right, now this bolt here that holds on the caliper is 14 millimeter. So you want a 14 millimeter socket. You can use a 15 if you don't have a 14, but you might strip it. So, and this is where it comes in handy when you pivot the tire out, so you can have very easy access to that nut. Let's see. Over here, just kind of break away there. Okay, put that aside. This one here. Okay, with those off, it is very easy, the next few steps. So we'll go ahead and just wiggle this a little bit back and forth. Comes right off just like that, and I set it right above. Just want to make sure you don't put any strain on this here. This is the brake line. You don't want it hanging by that. You don't want to put any stress on that, any undue stress. Okay, now watch how easily, back a little bit here. Watch how easily this brake pad, this is the inside brake pad. Watch how this comes out. Look at that. And then the outside brake pad, just that easy. I'm going to spray some brake cleaner in here, and this just cleans off some of the parts. Oh, also, there's these metal brackets. These metal brackets at the top and the bottom come out, and you replace those as well. So we'll go ahead and spray any parts that really get any kind of brake dust. You want all these things running nicely. Okay. Stuff smells okay. Alright, so now we have the new brake pads. And we also have the new metal brackets. The brackets just kind of fit in. So this long bar goes across the front, obviously. So I'll show you the tricky part here. The tricky part is a little metal lip or edge on the inside and outside. That just creates friction, but you just have to get it in there. Okay. Alright, I'll show you. Now I got those on. I'll show you what I mean. So you want to make sure that there's no contact here with this piece of metal. I don't know how well you can see, but there's no contact with this bracket and the rotor at all. There's a space there. But if you don't put it in properly, it might be leaning one side or to the other. You just want to make sure that there's no contact there. Alright, now the top one goes in the same way. Okay, pops right in. No problem. Okay. Alright. So now we go to the brake pads. Now these are the exact same. Some cars like the Ford Focus had a pad for the inside and a pad for the outside. They're the exact same pads, so you can't make a mistake there. And you want to get some of this stuff. They sell it in tiny little packets at the register of most auto repair places, but I seem to use enough of it that I just bought a whole bottle. Now you put this on any contact points of the brake pad, not the face of the brake pad toward the rotor. So there's a guy on YouTube, he's got a video, he says you put it on here and you let it soak in real good overnight. And it wasn't a comedy video. Bless the guy for trying, but you don't want to do that. It won't ruin your brakes, but you don't want anything to come between here, the rotor, and your brake pad. It will affect, how can it not affect the performance of your brake initially? It would burn off. But anyway, you put it on the back. There's a ring on the caliper that you put it on. I usually just cover the whole back. And then I put it on these points right here and these points right here because they fit right in here and here. So those are the contact points. I'll go ahead and show you. This is where it gets a little messy. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do it right here. So I'll start with the back. Put on some. You don't need a ton, but you're going to be spreading it out. So just like that. Now some people are saying you don't need that much. You just do the circle where it is. And what this does really is it stops vibration so that your brakes don't squeak or make any noise. So it really doesn't matter how much you put on that side. What I'm saying is what I did isn't going to ruin anything. I just don't want to guess where the caliper ring is. Okay, now that it's covered, I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, find the right direction, slip it on. Now, it goes in real easy. Like I said, you don't want to get any on the front of the pad, but it goes in, just slips in just like that. It's awesome. And then we're ready for the next pad. So now it's just fitting right on. Okay, so we'll do the next brake pad. This one's going on the back. All right, now we're going to go ahead and put this on. You can see, I'll try and angle this in. I'm holding my hand in a funny way. Okay, oh, misaligned it down there. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to go get some new gloves. Okay, so the next step here, we're going to be working with caliper. And this is what actually applies pressure to the brake pads. So I should spray that as well. That's looking pretty bad. At any rate, because the thickness of the brake pads have changed, this is extended more, so we wouldn't be able to put it on without compressing it. If you have a big C-clamp, you can clamp this down without a problem. Since I don't, I just use brute force. This is why I took the cap off of the brake fluid line, just to release some pressure as I'm pushing it. So you can use a tire iron, put it in there and just apply pressure. And I'll see if I could get a good camera angle while doing this so you can see what I mean. But first, let's clean that out. Okay, that's looking good. This stuff dries extremely fast, so you don't have to worry about drying it off or anything, and it doesn't leave any residue, which is good. Okay, so now you can, believe it or not, if you're strong enough, it just takes time. It's almost like watching clouds pass. You can see it slowly compress in. I'm just applying pressure, holding it in the back, and applying brute force pressure. Another thing that I found helps is just getting the tire iron. This is the prying end. You don't want to put it on the rubber boot. I just put it inside and apply pressure. But it doesn't compress uniformly, so you go one side to the other. And it goes in. And it's like it's like it builds up a momentum. This is just really the hardest part. It's not that bad. Maybe we'll rest it. Again, pay attention to this brake line. You don't want any stress on the brake line. So you should be able to clearly see, this is just the rubber boot popping out there, but you can clearly see that it's been compressed in, and that's enough to put it back over the brake pads. So we'll do that next. We're gonna put the caliper back on, and it just slides right over the brake pads. And then there's these bolts with bushings at the top and bottom, and they kind of compress in. So tighten up my hand first. You don't want to over tighten one before you tighten the other. You just kind of want to take turns tightening them. Some use torque wrenches for this. I just kind of do what my gut tells me is right. It's always worked for me. Okay. All right, so this is on securely, and I say that, and then you might like move it back and forth, and you'll say, wait a minute, this has some play. Yes, it does have some play, because this actually moves back and forth. Or as my kids say, back and forth. But anyway, this moves. This is made to kind of move. These parts compress, so don't expect a super solid connection there. Okay, but you definitely want to make sure that these are tight and threaded properly. So next we'll go ahead and put the tire back on. All right, so you'll notice that there's kind of a curved side and a flat side to this nut. The curved side goes in toward the rim of the tire, so when you tighten it, this one goes facing in the threads, not away toward the street, in toward the car. That holds, this curve kind of snugly fits around the whole of the rim, so you have a nice, secure, tight fit. My battery is dying, so I'll just say this in case it dies. You want to tighten it as you're doing it, so if you tighten this one, go to 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 this one, so that you're going opposite, to ensure that it's a nice even tighten job. And then I usually check after about 2 weeks of driving, or a month or whatever, depending on how much driving you do. We don't do much. I'll take it off and just check. My brother-in-law changed his brakes and he put his bolts back on, didn't secure them enough, and they were coming off. His tire almost came off on the road. So for me, it's worth just checking, you know, a couple weeks later. And you want to tighten these enough before you lower your car, because the pressure on the bottom of the tire from the ground will tilt the wheel, and then you'll have a wheel that's not on properly. this one. So I usually tighten it till it meets the rim. And as you can see, I'm going opposite every time. All the way around till it's totally snug. So like this one was tight when I first did it, now it's loose. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and lower the car to the ground to finish tightening these bolts. Okay, now that I've got it on the ground, I'm going to just give it another couple turns, or quarter turns, or eighth turns, whatever works. Let's see, where would it be now? Here. And then I'll take it for a test drive. All right, that's good. This, don't forget to put this back on. Okay, secure, that's the way it goes. I gotta clean this. I'll show you how to clean this. Really, you just use a pressure washer. That's what a lot of dealerships do. That's how they make it look brand new. But you don't want to go point blank on a pressure washer. You want to be back a little bit. Otherwise, you could damage things. And you don't want it to be a hot car when you do it either. Okay, so when you first start your car, before you put it in drive or reverse or whatever, you want to pump your brakes and get the fluid back down into the lines, because remember, we pushed it out of the caliper. And then once you do that, just put it in reverse and even just step on your brakes a few times just to make sure there's nothing dumb going on before you go out and do a real test. So we're good. Again, test your, check your bolts. Check your bolts when you, check your bolts in about a month, a couple weeks anyway. After a little bit of driving, even a week if you go driving every day, just to make sure okay, we're good. Feels a lot nicer. Okay, I'm gonna turn off these lights here. Well, thanks for watching. Please rate this video if it was helpful. Comment, let me know what you thought. If you have any suggestions, subscribe if you want more Sienna videos. That's what I'll be doing for the next while, as well as Toyota Corolla. Till I get a new car anyway. Okay, there we go. Thanks for watching.
If you want more videos like this, click subscribe. And I'd love to know how long it took you to change the brake pads. Let me know in the comments section below. And if I saved you some precious coin, you can help me out with a cash tip using the link in the description. Even just $1 helps this channel quite a bit. You'd be surprised. Thanks for watching.